Welcome to Nightmare Fuel Stories. The lighthouse at Widow's Point, the beam cuts through the fog like God's own flashlight. I've watched it for 3 nights now from my rental cottage half a mile down the shoreline. 3 nights of that hypnotic sweep, 15 seconds of darkness, then 5 of brilliant white light. Darkness, then light, like clockwork, except the Widow's Point lighthouse has been decommissioned for 27 years. I know because I've researched every detail about this place. The lighthouse was built in 1887, standing sentinel over the treacherous rocks of Maine's Blackwater Bay. The last keeper left in 1996 when the Coast Guard automated the remaining lighthouses along the eastern seaboard. Widow's Point went dark entirely in 1998 after a structural assessment deemed it unsafe. Yet here I am watching its beam sweep across the churning Atlantic. I came to Blackwater Bay to write. My editor has been after me for months about my next maritime history book. People love shipwrecks, Thomas, she keeps saying. Give them more shipwrecks, so I found this place, remote enough to focus, close enough to civilization for supplies, perfect for 6 weeks of uninterrupted work. I didn't know about the lighthouse when I booked the cottage. The listing mentioned historic views, but nothing about a 137-foot stone tower that would dominate my horizon. Nothing about the light that shouldn't exist. On my first morning here, I hiked out to the lighthouse, expecting a typical decommissioned structure, padlocked, weathered, forgotten. What I found was a building sealed tight with heavy chains across the door and fresh, no trespassing signs. The stone was clean, maintained. Someone was taking care of this place. I asked Maggie at the general store about it while buying groceries. That old thing, she'd laughed, not looking up as she rang up my items. Been dark longer than I've been alive. But I saw the light last night, I insisted. Her scanner paused over my coffee. Must have been the moon reflecting off the glass, hun, or maybe a boat passing by. Lighthouse hasn't worked since the 90s. I let it drop, but that night I watched again through my binoculars. The beam swept with mechanical precision. 15 seconds off, 5 seconds on, all night long. Tonight makes the third night. I've had enough of wondering. I've packed a small bag, flashlight, camera, notebook, water, and a crowbar I found in the cottage's utility closet. If the door is chained, I'll find another way in. I need to know what's generating that light. The walk takes 20 minutes along the rocky shoreline. The tide is out, exposing a jagged path of wet stone and tidal pools. My flashlight beam bounces ahead of me, catching the occasional glint of a mussel shell or the scuttle of a disturbed crab. As I draw closer, the lighthouse looms larger. In the moonlight, its white-painted stone has a ghostly quality, like bleached bone. The keeper's house attached to its base is a squat, practical building with boarded windows. Everything about it says keep away. The light sweeps overhead, momentarily blinding me as I approach. 15 seconds later it happens again. I count between flashes, timing it. The rhythm is perfect, inhuman in its consistency. The chains I saw earlier still secure the main door, heavy and rusted with a padlock the size of my fist. I circle the building, looking for another entry point. The windows of the keeper's house are too high and thoroughly boarded. But around the back, partially hidden by overgrown brambles, I find what I'm looking for, a cellar door, its padlock broken. I hesitate. Breaking into a government facility, even an abandoned one, is probably a federal offense. But the light overhead makes another pass, and my curiosity overrides my caution. I pull open the cellar doors with a groan of protesting hinges. The smell hits me first, salt and mildew, but also something else. Something like ozone and hot metal. I shine my flashlight down stone steps that descend into darkness. Water has pooled at the bottom, reflecting my light back at me. I descend carefully. The water is only an inch deep, but it soaks through my boots immediately. The cellar is small, with stone walls and a low ceiling. Shelves line the walls, empty except for a few rusted cans and broken glass. A door on the far wall must lead to the keeper's quarters. It opens with surprising ease. No lock, no resistance. I step into what was once a kitchen. Moonlight filters through cracks in the boarded windows, casting zebra stripes across a room stripped of everything useful decades ago. A table remains and a single chair, both coated in dust, but there are footprints in that dust, recent ones. I follow them through the kitchen into a sparse living area, then toward a narrow staircase that must lead up to the tower. The footprints continue upward. The staircase spirals tightly, following the inner wall of the lighthouse. My flashlight beam shows more footprints in the dust, going both up and down. Someone has been here recently and repeatedly. I climb for what feels like forever, my legs burning, my breathing echoing in the confined space. Just when I think the stairs will never end, I reach a small landing and a metal door. It's ajar. Beyond it is the lantern room. And it's immaculate. While the rest of the lighthouse shows decades of neglect, this room gleams. The glass is clean, inside and out. The massive Fresnel lens at the center is polished to brilliance. And at its heart, impossibly, is a light source. not the oil lamps of the 19th century or even the electric bulbs that replaced them, but something I can't identify. It pulses with a blue-white intensity that hurts my eyes. The mechanism rotates silently, sweeping the beam out across the water in its perfect 15/5 rhythm. There are no motors I can see, no power cables, nothing to explain how this is functioning. On the wall, there's a logbook in a neat leather case. I open it, expecting to find entries from 1998 or earlier. Instead, I see yesterday's date and the day before. And every day stretching back through pages and pages, all in the same meticulous handwriting. October 12, 2023. Sea calm, no vessels sighted, light functioning normally. October 11, 2023. Moderate swells from the northeast. Fishing boat passed 2.3 miles offshore at 22:17. Light functioning normally. October 10, 2023. Heavy fog, 3 vessels guided safely. Light functioning normally. I flip back through the book, finding entries for every single day going back months. Years. The handwriting never changes, never shows fatigue or hurry. Always the same precise script. The latest entry is from this morning. October 13, 2023. Storm approaching from the east. Expected arrival 2 o'clock. Visitor expected. Light functioning normally. Visitor expected. The words send a chill through me even before I register the impossibility of someone predicting my unplanned visit. I'm so absorbed in the logbook that I almost miss the sound, a door opening somewhere below me, then footsteps on the spiral staircase. Slow, unhurried footsteps coming up. Panic seizes me. I look around for somewhere to hide, but the lantern room is small and bare. The only exit is the door I came through, which opens onto the stairs where someone is now ascending. I press myself against the wall beside the door, hoping whoever it is will enter far enough that I can slip past them and flee down the stairs. My heart hammers so loudly I'm sure it must be audible over the sound of the approaching footsteps. They stop just outside the door. There's a pause, long enough that I wonder if I imagine the whole thing. Then the door swings fully open. No one enters. "I know you're there," says a voice, male, elderly, with the distinctive Maine coastal accent. "No need to hide, I've been expecting you." I remain frozen, unable to speak or move. "Thomas Blackwood, isn't it? The writer. Come out where I can see you, son." The fact that he knows my name unlocks my voice. "Who are you?" I manage to ask, still pressed against the wall. "The keeper," he says simply. "Now step out where I can see you. I don't like talking to shadows." I edge away from the wall into the center of the room. The doorway remains empty. "That's better," says the voice still from the landing outside. "Now I imagine you have questions. Who are you?" I repeat. "How is this light working?" "The lighthouse was decommissioned decades ago." "Was it?" There's amusement in his voice. "Seems to be working fine to me. But there's no power, no fuel, and who maintains it?" "The Coast Guard automated everything." "That they did," agrees the voice. "Made flesh and blood keepers obsolete, or so they thought." "So you're, what, a volunteer, some kind of lighthouse enthusiast?" He laughs, a sound like stones grinding together. "Nothing so simple, I'm afraid. I'm bound to this place, have been since 1943. "That's impossible. You'd be over 100 years old. 117 next month, if you're counting." Though the years don't mean much to me anymore. I edge toward the door, trying to see who's speaking. The landing outside remains empty, though the voice seems to come from right there. "Show yourself," I demand, my voice steadier than I feel. "I'm right here, son, right where you're looking." And suddenly I can see him, or through him rather, an old man in a keeper's uniform that might have been current in the 1940s. His face is weathered, his eyes pale and reflective like sea glass. He's as transparent as the windows behind him, the stonework of the lighthouse visible through his form. I stumble backward, nearly colliding with the rotating lens. "You're not real," I whisper. "Real enough," he says. "Real enough to keep the light burning all these years." "You're dead," he nods, untroubled by the observation. "Since 1943, U-boat shelled the lighthouse." Direct hit to the lantern room where we're standing. I was on duty. "That's not in any of the records," I say automatically, my historian's brain still functioning despite my terror. "The government covered it up. Didn't want people knowing German submarines were attacking the American mainland. Called it a tragic accident, gas leak explosion." He makes a dismissive gesture. "Doesn't matter what they called it. I died here and here I've stayed. Keeping the light on," I say numbly. "Someone has to. The rocks don't care if the keeper is flesh or spirit. They'll tear the bottom out of a ship just the same." I look at the logbook again. "You've been writing in this, how?" "With effort," he says. "Moving physical objects isn't easy for my kind, but I've had decades to practice." "And the light itself, how does that work without electricity?" He moves into the room, or seems to glide, his feet not quite touching the floor. "That's the real mystery, isn't it? I don't fully understand it myself. When I died, something happened. My duty, my purpose, somehow became bound to this place. The light draws energy from me, or through me. As long as I'm here, it shines. That's why no one else can see it, I realize. Maggie at the store, she thought I was crazy. Not everyone can see it, he agrees. Just those who need to, ship captains who might wreck on the rocks. And people like you, what do you mean people like me? He studies me with those pale eyes. People who are lost, people who need guidance. I'm not lost. I know exactly where I am. Do you? He moves closer to the lens, passing partially through it. The light seems to intensify where his form intersects with it. You came to Blackwater Bay running from something, your failed marriage. Your stalled career, the book you can't seem to finish. His words hit like physical blows. How could you possibly know that? The light shows me things about the ships that pass. About the people who can see it. He turns those eerie eyes on me again. You're drifting toward the rocks, Thomas, heading for destruction. This is insane, I mutter, backing toward the door. I'm leaving. You can go, he says. But first, look out there. He gestures toward the water. Despite myself, I move to the windows and look out over the dark Atlantic. The lighthouse beam sweeps across the water, illuminating something I hadn't noticed before, a ship, maybe 2 miles offshore, heading directly toward the jagged rocks that extend from the point. They can't see the rocks in this darkness, the keeper says. Without the light, they'd run aground and break apart. As I watch, the ship adjusts its course, turning away from danger. The beam sweeps over it once more, and I catch a glimpse of its name on the hull, Redemption. That's not subtle, I say. The keeper makes a sound that might be a chuckle. I don't control what ships are named. But I do control who sees my light, and tonight both you and that vessel needed guidance. Why me? Why now? Because you're writing a book about shipwrecks, aren't you? About destruction and loss. But you're missing the other half of the story. What other half? The lighthouses, the rescues, the lives saved. He moves to stand beside me at the window. For every wreck in your book, there are 100 ships that made it safely to harbor because someone kept the light burning. I watch the Redemption continue on its adjusted course, safely past the rocks now. So what am I supposed to do with this information? Write about a ghost keeping an impossible lighthouse running. Write what you want, or don't write at all. That's your choice. He turns away from the window. But you asked why the light is still burning after all these years. Now you know. And what happens to you? Do you just keep doing this forever? He looks suddenly tired, the first real emotion I've seen on his spectral face. Until I'm released, yes. Released how? When my duty is fulfilled, when I've saved enough lives to balance the scales. He moves back toward the lens, or when someone takes my place. The implication hangs in the air between us. I shake my head. I'm not dead. I can't become a lighthouse ghost. No, he agrees, but you could become the keeper in other ways. What does that mean? Instead of answering, he gestures to the logbook. Read the first entry. I open to the first page. The handwriting is different here, shaky, urgent. March 17, 1943. Under attack, U-boat offshore. God help us. The next entry, dated the following day, is in the precise script I recognize from the recent entries. March 18, 1943. Damage to lantern room repaired. Keeper Harlan Jenkins deceased. I, Samuel Pierce, assumed duties as keeper, light functioning normally. You took over from the previous keeper, I say, the day after he died. I was his assistant, the ghost, Samuel confirms. When the shell hit, he pushed me down the stairs, saved my life at the cost of his own. I survived the initial blast but knew I was dying, internal injuries. His transparent hand touches his side. I climbed back up here, determined to keep the light on with my last strength, and when I died, I just kept going. And now you want me to what? Move in, become a lighthouse keeper. The Coast Guard checks this building once a year. They find it secure, uninhabited. They never climb up here, never see the light. He moves toward me. Someone living could maintain this place properly, could keep records the authorities would actually raid, could report ships in distress. I'm a writer, not a lighthouse keeper. You could be both. He gestures around the lantern room. There's power here, Thomas, purpose, things you've been searching for. I look out at the ocean again. The Redemption is just a distant light on the horizon now, safely on its way. And if I say no, then you leave, go back to your rented cottage, finish your book about shipwrecks, live your life. He shrugs. And I continue as I have for 80 years. Just like that, you're not going to, I don't know, haunt me or something. For the first time he smiles, a genuine expression that transforms his weathered face. I'm bound to the lighthouse, son. I couldn't haunt you if I wanted to. I consider his offer. There's something tempting about it, the solitude, the purpose, the connection to history. But also something terrifying about tying myself to this place, to this ghost. I need to think about it, I say finally. He nods, unsurprised. Take your time, but know this, the offer won't stand forever. There are others who can see my light, others who might answer the call. How long do I have to decide? Until the storm passes, he says, gesturing toward the eastern horizon, where dark clouds are gathering. After that, we'll see. I leave him there, descending the spiral staircase with my mind whirling. Outside, the wind has picked up, carrying the first spatters of rain. I make my way back to my cottage, the lighthouse beam sweeping over me every 15 seconds like a heartbeat. Inside, I sit at my laptop and open my manuscript, Atlantic Graveyards, the Shipwrecks of New England. Hundreds of pages documenting destruction and death. Samuel's words echo in my head. For every wreck in your book, there are 100 ships that made it safely to harbor because someone kept the light burning. I open a new document and type a title, Keepers of the Light. The Lighthouses of New England. Then I begin to write about Samuel Pierce and the Widow's Point Lighthouse, about duty that transcends death, about guidance in the darkness. The storm arrives around 2 a.m., just as the logbook predicted. Rain lashes against my windows and thunder shakes the cottage. I watch through binoculars as massive waves crash against the rocks below the lighthouse. The beam continues its steady rhythm, cutting through the tempest. And then I see it, a fishing boat, much closer to shore than it should be, struggling in the massive swells. Even through the rain-streaked window and blurred binocular lenses, I can see it's in trouble. It's drifting toward the rocks. I grab my raincoat and run outside without thinking. The wind nearly knocks me off my feet and the rain is blinding. I stumble along the path toward the lighthouse, slipping on wet rocks, driven by an urgency I don't fully understand. By the time I reach the lighthouse, I'm soaked through. The cellar door has blown open, slamming repeatedly against the stone in the wind. I fight my way inside and up the spiral staircase, my wet clothes heavy, my lungs burning. Samuel is in the lantern room, his transparent form moving agitatedly around the lens. He turns as I burst in. The fishing boat, I gasp. It's heading for the rocks. I know, he says grimly. The light isn't enough. They've lost power. They're drifting. I move to the window, wiping condensation away with my sleeve. The boat is dangerously close to the rocks now, maybe 500 yards out. We need to call the Coast Guard. No time, Samuel says. And no phone here anyway. Then what can we do? He looks at me, those pale eyes seeming to glow in the lantern light. We can intensify the beam, guide them to the safe channel. He places his transparent hands on the lens. But I need help, physical hands. I understand immediately. I move to the lens and place my hands where his are. The glass is warm despite the cold room, vibrating slightly under my touch. Focus, Samuel instructs. Think about pushing your energy into the light. Imagine guiding that boat to safety. I feel ridiculous, but I do as he says, concentrating on the lens beneath my palms. At first, nothing happens. Then I feel a strange sensation, like electricity but not painful, flowing from my chest down my arms to my hands. The light begins to pulse brighter. It's working, Samuel says, his voice tight with effort. Keep going, the beam intensifies, becoming almost blinding. I can feel it drawing something from me, energy, will, life force, I don't know what to call it. My knees weaken, but I stay upright, hands pressed to the glass. Through the window, I see the fishing boat alter course, turning away from the rocks toward the narrow, safe channel between two reefs. It's moving with purpose now, no longer drifting. They've regained power, Samuel says. They're going to make it. I watch as the boat navigates the channel and moves into safer waters. Only then do I let my hands drop from the lens. I'm exhausted, as if I've run miles. What just happened? I ask, slumping against the wall. You helped save that boat, Samuel says simply. 4 lives aboard would have been lost without the enhanced beam. But how? How did we make the light stronger? The same way I've kept it running all these years. Willpower, life energy. He studies me. You have a strong connection to this place already. Stronger than I expected. I look out at the boat, now safely heading toward the harbor. I felt something when we were doing that, like I was connected to the lighthouse, to you. Yes, he says. That's how it begins, what begins, the transition from visitor to keeper. He moves closer, his form seeming more solid somehow. You've taken the first step, Thomas. You've used your life force to power the light. To save lives, I should be frightened by this, but instead I feel a strange calm. And if I took the second step, what would that mean? It would mean staying, learning. Eventually taking my place so I can finally rest. His voice softens. It would mean purpose, Thomas, real purpose. Outside, the storm continues to rage, but the fishing boat is safe. I think about my empty apartment in Boston, my unfinished book, my ex-wife who's already remarried. What exactly am I going back to? I'd need time, I say slowly, to settle my affairs, sublet my apartment. Get my things, hope flickers across Samuel's transparent features. You'll do it, you'll become the keeper. I'm considering it, I say. But I have questions, practical ones. How would I live here? The place is abandoned, no electricity, no running water. Details, he says dismissively. The Coast Guard maintains ownership. With the right application, you could become the official caretaker. There's precedent for historical societies taking over decommissioned lighthouses. You're a maritime historian, you could make a case. He's thought this through, maybe has had decades to think it through. And in the meantime, while I'm sorting out the paperwork, in the meantime you'd stay at your cottage, visit here daily, learn what you need to know. He gestures to the logbook. Record your training. When you're ready, when you're officially the caretaker, you'll move in. And you, what happens to you when I take over? A look of profound longing crosses his face. I'll be released, move on to whatever comes next. Heaven. Hell, I don't know, he admits, just not here, not anymore. I look out at the ocean again. The storm is beginning to subside, the first light of dawn breaking through the clouds to the east. The fishing boat is a distant speck, safely on its way to harbor. I'll do it, I hear myself say. I'll become the keeper. Relief washes over Samuel's face. Thank you, he whispers. Thank you. As the sun rises, his form becomes harder to see, fading in the growing light. But before he disappears completely, he moves to the logbook and somehow manages to pick up the pen beside it. With visible effort, he writes. October 14, 2023. Storm past. Fishing vessel Mary Ellen guided safely through North Channel. New keeper in training, light functioning normally. He sets down the pen and turns to me, now barely visible in the morning light. Your turn, he says. I take the pen, feeling its weight, the responsibility it represents. Beneath his entry, I write my first log entry. Thomas Blackwood, keeper in training, reporting for duty. Samuel smiles, a look of peace settling over his features. See you tonight, he says, and fades completely as the sun clears the horizon. I stand alone in the lantern room, watching as the mysterious light source dims with the coming of day. Outside, the ocean stretches to infinity, countless ships moving across its surface, each one carrying lives that might someday depend on this light, on me. For the first time in years, I feel something like purpose, something like peace. I close the logbook and begin the long descent down the spiral staircase, already making mental notes about what supplies I'll need, what repairs must be made, what books I should consult on lighthouse keeping. The dead man's light will shine again tonight, and I'll be here to help him keep it burning, until the day comes when it's mine alone to tend.